Hey, yeah, what's up? This disciple Marcello Kearns, reign back up in this anti-Illuminati all day and anti-America all day. So this message basically is going to be another part of my campaign. I feel like during this time right now is uh you know God is revealing things to me. It's like the perfect time now to really put emphasis on this investigation that was done by the House Select Subcommittee on Donald Trump during the coronavirus crisis time. Uh, Basically, there was an investigation that didn't get much coverage. This investigation uh, proved that Donald Trump intentionally held back a response concerning COVID-19. This investigation, like I said, was done by the House Select Subcommittee. They investigated him. It was a 46 page report done on his response to COVID-19, and they found out that he intentionally had a slow response to COVID-19. All right, this is facts. Look up the House Select Subcommittee. That's the official name for it, for the group of individuals in the government. They're called the House Select Subcommittee. The House Select Subcommittee. It took me a while to get it too. I was saying the House Subcommittee. I was leaving out the select part. I was saying the committee, subcommittee, House. But it's called the House Select Subcommittee. And you can Google the 46-page report that they did on Donald Trump's administration concerning COVID-19. And they concluded in their report, which was an investigation basically, that the Trump administration had an intentional slow response to COVID-19. This is a bombshell of information that God is now like taking the blinders off my eyes about. Like I've done videos about it. He's revealed it to me, but it's like now it's more clear than ever to me how serious this investigation was on Donald Trump, because I look at it like this. It revealed that basically he's the reason why it's so many deaths. But this time around, I'm realizing how it wasn't covered by the media. The CNN, the MSNBCs did not cover the House. I didn't see it. No one knows in the culture. This is another thing no one else really knows in the culture. The House Select Subcommittee did an investigation on Donald Trump, right? This is beyond all the talking and all this other stuff and all this stuff that everybody's saying. And we ain't talking about that. We ain't talking about that right now. We're talking about an official investigation that didn't get the proper coverage. And I suspect that it was hushed. It was hushed upon, if you will. It was made to hush, because why didn't anyone talk about this investigation, this 46-page report that the House Select Subcommittee did on Donald Trump concerning the coronavirus? This is a specific investigation. This is a specific situation. This isn't everywhere, all times. This is a specific investigation. Why hasn't this specific investigation been talked about among the public on CNN? Why have they not brought it up again and again and again? They bring up other stuff again and again. How come they didn't bring up again and again when we're talking about how discreditable Donald Trump is and all the stuff he's done, how come no one brought up the House Select Subcommittee investigation on Donald Trump, which proved that he had an intentional slow response to COVID for political reasons, for political points, one article puts it. So, two uh, news reporters, media outlets, if you will, did an article on this very thing that I'm talking about. They felt that it was newsworthy. CNN really didn't feel it was newsworthy, obviously. I mean, look at it for what it is. Fox News, probably been on Trump's side, didn't see it as newsworthy. MSNBC didn't see it as newsworthy. I don't know. I'm going to go look and see if they had news clips on this and how did they cover it. I mean, like I said, they talk about everything else a million times. They talk about all the stuff Donald Trump did a million times, right? They do that, right? How come we didn't hear about this House Select Subcommittee investigation on Donald Trump that concluded that he had an intentional slow response to COVID? How come we didn't hear about this? So, like, two media outlets did it. Two media outlets wrote on this issue. They felt it was newsworthy. Like I said, the first one is Rolling Stones. The Rolling Stone is very credible. You know, they don't put out, you know, false news, fake news. They have a good reputation. Rolling Stone, their headline, if you want to Google it and look at it, you Google Rolling Stone, Trump. This is the headline of the article that they did. This is the actual headline, word for word. Trump administration deliberately tanked COVID response for political purposes. Trump administration deliberately tanked COVID response for political purposes. That's the Rolling Stone article that they put out. The second news media outlet was Daily Beast. Their headline read, Trump administration sabotaged COVID efforts to score political points. So these are two, I'm going to read it again. Trump administration sabotaged COVID efforts to score political points. That's Daily Beast. Daily, like as in daily bread, Daily Beast. Daily Beast. That's the news media outlet. So Google Daily Beast and put the headline that they wrote, that they put for the article, Trump administration sabotaged COVID efforts to score political points. Now that's too credible. I'm pretty sure you heard of Rolling Stone. I'm pretty sure you heard of Daily Beast before. If you follow a lot of media coverage stuff, if you follow a lot of news and you're a kind of news type person, newsy person, then you probably heard of Daily Beast. I have. I'm sure you heard of Rolling Stone, as in the Rolling Stone magazine. These are the two media outlets that cover this. Just so you know, it's credible. This is not something I just dug up somewhere on some little wayward website. Okay? Now, I'm going to be reading from, out of the two articles, I chose to go with the Rolling Stone article. And I'm going to be reading just the first paragraph. It just hits it solid. I like how whoever wrote this, I like how they move. They hit the ground running. They pretty much summed it up in the first paragraph. They just got it to you. So you don't even have to go and read a whole bunch. You can do that. But they just hit the ground running. They just kind of they went ahead and nipped it in the bud. and came to the conclusion. So I'm going to read the first graph of the Rolling Stone article concerning Donald Trump, the Trump administration having an intentional slow response to COVID for political points and reasons. This, I don't know why for the world of me, how come no one is talking about this? So here it is. Rolling Stone article. Here's the headline. Trump administration deliberately tanked COVID response for political purposes. Trump administration deliberately tanked COVID response. The response to COVID. They deliberately tanked the COVID response. The response to COVID for the reason why, political points. So again, Trump administration deliberately tanked COVID response for political purposes. Now, first paragraph of this article, and it reads, the House Select Subcommittee on the Coronavirus Crisis on Friday released a 46-page report confirming what was readily apparent to most reasonable, informed Americans. The Trump administration made deliberate efforts to undermine America's response to COVID-19 for political purposes. This is the bombshell, guys. This is the bombshell. This is the bombshell. Things are never going to be the same. This is the bombshell. The Lord has opened my eyes. There's so much deception. I don't understand why we are in a daze concerning this. How come we don't see this clearly for what it is? And the only way I see it clearly for what it is because I'm fasting. Glory to God. And I'm seeking the Lord consistently. And the Lord is showing me, like, pay attention. Look at this. I'm going to read it again. The headline is Trump administration deliberately tanked COVID response for political purposes. The House Select Subcommittee, that's the name of the group. This is going to be the name of the group. This is the name of the people that this group is the main group of the hour right now. Right? The House Select Subcommittee. Get it in your head. The House Select Subcommittee. The House Select Subcommittee on the coronavirus crisis on Friday released a 46-page report. They had a 46-page report on Trump, on the whole Trump administration, confirming. This 46-page report confirmed what was readily apparent to most reasonable, informed Americans. The Trump administration made deliberate efforts to undermine America's response to COVID-19. For political purposes. The Trump administration made deliberate efforts to undermine America's response. That's everybody, the community, the people that would help get rid of this. The Trump administration made deliberate efforts to undermine America's response to COVID-19. So the efforts of America's response to COVID-19, the Trump administration had deliberate efforts to undermine it. This is published. This is facts. You cannot let Donald Trump fool you with the Jedi mind trick of fake news. This is not, how is it fake news when this credible committee called the House Select Subcommittee investigated Donald Trump with a 46-page report? How's that fake news? That actually happened. So how's it fake? That's a 7. How's it fake when they actually had a real investigation, buddy? Now, it's one thing if they had no investigation, but they had an investigation and they had a 46-page report on the Trump administration's response to COVID-19. And they found out the Trump administration made deliberate efforts to undermine America's response to COVID-19 for political purposes. How's that fake news when they did it? How's that fake news when it happened? How's that fake news when they got it documented with 46 pages? 46 pages is fake news? So it's 46 pages of fake news. Okay. 46 pages of fake news. Okay. This is a credible committee. The House, look up the House Select Subcommittee and see their credibility. These people investigated the Trump administration concerning COVID-19. They had a 46-page report on the response of the Trump administration concerning COVID-19. They concluded that the Trump administration made deliberate efforts to undermine America's response to COVID-19 for, drumroll, political purposes. He put you in harm's way to get reelected, basically. You have 1 million deaths, 1 million plus deaths, because this man had deliberate efforts, the Trump administration had deliberate efforts to undermine America's response to COVID-19 for political purposes. That's why you got 1 million plus deaths, because this man undermined America's response to COVID-19 for political purposes. That's why. This is why. And there's so much deception in that. It's a haze of deception. Some would say it might be witchcraft deception. Why the whole country, it may be witchcraft to put us in deception of why we didn't look at this particular investigation. Why? Why did we not look at this particular investigation? The House Select Subcommittee, I would imagine, are a host of people that went to school, went to college, and were educated and schooled on investigating a president. These aren't some rinky-dink people, folks. These aren't fake news people. These people have to be the best to investigate a White House administration. Let's first confirm that. Let's first agree on that. For them to have this position, it has to have some expertise attached to it. They don't just get up there and snoop around and see what they can find and look at articles and look at documents. These people have to be skilled in what they're doing. They have to be. It's safe to say they went to school to be skilled with investigating a White House, an American government president administration. So these people ain't halfway qualified. They're all the way qualified to investigate an administration. They're not halfway, 60% qualified. I would say overqualified. But it's safe to say they're qualified to overqualified to investigate an American president administration. So we know they're qualified to do this. It's not some rinky-dink ragtag bunch of people. It's not some misfit committee. It's not some misfit committee. These people are investigating, have access to investigate an American president administration. That's the best. When you say, that's nothing to sneeze at. That's not a joke. I'm pretty sure they're qualified to do this. I'm sure they got schooled. I'm sure they had plenty of schooling. I'm trying to help you understand how credible a group of people will have to be to actually investigate and report concerning a White House administration. You know how credible you would have to be? You know how skilled with expertise you would have to be? This isn't some people just, well, we'll try to see what happened. Let's get in the car, guys. Let's go see what happened. My station wagon would take us there. This isn't a bunch of losers in a station wagon, guys. That's what I'm trying to get you to see. This isn't a bunch of losers in a station wagon. This group investigates and reports concerning a White House administration. Do you think people, government, and all the whole, even Donald Trump is going to be subject to some ragtag bunch of people? No, come on. The fact that the White House is subject to such a group speaks for itself. The fact that a White House administration is subject to such a group speaks for itself. Right or wrong? The White House administration is subject to the House Select Subcommittee. That speaks for itself. And they concluded that the Trump administration made deliberate efforts to undermine America's response to COVID-19 for political purposes. Now, with their 46-page report, do you think they halfway had evidence? They halfway had it almost there. It kind of seemed like it. It's 80% kind of like it. Or do you think they had more than enough evidence? Like 200% evidence? I consider that because a White House administration is subject to them, and that speaking for itself on their credibility and expertise, I think they had 200% evidence that the Trump administration had made deliberate efforts to undermine America's response to COVID-19 for political purposes. I think because of the fact that this committee is over the White House, so to speak, and the White House is subject, an administration is subject to them, they didn't barely have enough information. to conclude such facts, they had more than enough information. So if you think they would conclude this if they had 50%, we kind of don't know. We kind of feel like we got a hunch that it kind of is. You think they're going to conclude and confirm that? You think a 46-page report by people that's made by people that was reported, documented by people that White House administrations are subject to, barely made this information credible? Or do you think this information was over the top like I do? Do you think this information was over the top like I do? I think it was more than enough information. I think they had for them to conclude it this deeply, such in the details of what they're concluding, they had to have more than enough information to make such a statement, to make such a claim. To make such a claim, they had to have more than enough, I would say 150% credible information. They're not just going to say, well, we kind of feel this way, and Americans don't halfway like them anyway. We don't halfway like them. We're gonna go with the 50% and say he did it. Listen, man. These people are professional. A White House administration was subject to them. That speaks for itself. As far as integrity, credibility of information, it speaks for the credibility of the information that the White House will be subject to this committee. I can't stress that enough. The fact that a White House administration is subject to them speaks for itself. A White House administration is subject to this committee, the House Select Subcommittee. Get it in your head. The House Select Subcommittee. An administration, the Trump administration was subject to them, subject to their investigation and their report. We didn't hear anybody objecting, did we? Two things we didn't hear. We didn't hear about the actual investigation. And we did not hear about an objection of this investigation. We didn't hear anything. We didn't hear any news outlets cover an objection of this investigation, or that this someone raising up in the Trump administration in declaring this to be foolishness. We didn't hear anybody, Trump included. Did you hear Trump talk about, well, they lying about this investigation, about this 46-page report? The House Select Subcommittee is lying about this report. Did you hear him say anything like that? So there was no objection from anybody in the government. We didn't hear that. We didn't see a report. Did you see a report of anybody objecting of the House Select Subcommittee investigation and 46-page report confirming that the Trump administration made deliberate efforts to undermine America's response to COVID-19 for political purposes? We didn't hear nobody object of that investigation, did we? Didn't hear anybody, did you? Including Trump himself, or anybody of his White House, or anybody, the brief person. The brief lady. I forget her name, Haley something. You know what I'm talking about. Anyway, did you hear anything from them? You didn't, did you? You didn't, did you? Makes you wonder. You didn't hear anything about the actual report, the 46-page report. You didn't hear that harped on enough, did you? That's life-changing information. This is historical information, some would say. Well, yeah. This is a bombshell. That you find out that the Trump administration made deliberate efforts to undermine America's response to COVID-19 for political purposes. That's historical. That's a historical bombshell. Some would say. Wouldn't you say that? That we find out that he intentionally had a slow response, deliberate efforts to undermine America's response. They tried to stop America's response to help the people. Ain't that sad? They tried to stop them from helping you and let them people die like that. That's cold, man. I'm telling you, that's why the evil is in the world like it is. That's why this feel is in the air. This wavelength of evil is everywhere, right? This vibration of evil. You know why it's here? Because so much evil has been done to your community and you just didn't know it. The Trump administration made deliberate efforts to undermine America's response. America's response, meaning all, like, people helping the community. America helping the community, the government helping the community. The Trump administration made deliberate efforts to undermine America's response to COVID-19. And you heard nothing about this 46-page report that the House Select Subcommittee did that concluded this. And just in case you think I'm one of those Trump haters, you know what? If you check my Facebook and dig into my Facebook, I had a quote. I put a post that said, in the beginning, just like a Star Wars, you know how they got the Star Wars letters when the movie first come on? In the beginning, I said, we all gotta love Donald Trump. People thought I was crazy, probably. So that's how I used to be. Until he started, what changed me was when he started talking about irrelevant stuff, which probably changed many people. When he started talking about LeBron James, that was it for me. Because LeBron is not even an arrogant person. He's really not. Considering his accolades, he's not an arrogant person. I mean, he's the Michael Jordan of our present day. And he's a humble guy. If you watch him play, he's very humble. I mean, for the most part, he's a humble person. So for him to say something about that guy, I was like, nah, I ain't feeling that. And for what he said, something like anybody to make him look smart, as implying, he had LeBron James was being interviewed by Don Lemon. And basically, Trump looked at it, I guess, or was aware of it, and said anybody that makes LeBron look smart, something else. But basically, he was saying that Don Lemon made him look smart, I guess, something to that degree. And basically insinuating LeBron is stupid or slow. And that's not the case. I mean, look where he comes from. He doesn't come from New York. He doesn't come from Los Angeles. He's from Ohio. So they laid back. Everybody's not like they hyped up on coffee like New Yorkers. Yeah. Everybody don't move around like that, bruh. Yeah, that's what Donald Trump don't know. Everybody don't jump around like that and move around like that, like they hyped up on 1 million cups of coffee. Right? And it's okay to be that way. It's all right to be laid back. It doesn't mean that you lack intelligence. But that's what he was implying. And after that, I was just like, well, you know what? That's the end of my love for him. And it just got worse and worse and worse with time. All the stuff he said from that point. So, but like I said at the beginning, that's what I said. Everybody got to love Donald Trump. Until he started talking about people like LeBron James, that's just ridiculous. But we didn't hear him say anything about, concerning this investigation, did we? About this 46-page report, did we? We didn't hear him say anything about the House Select Subcommittee investigating his administration and how it was fake news, like he likes to say, or something else. We didn't hear him say anything else, did we? We didn't hear him say anything else, did we? Or anything at all, did we? Did you hear any of these news media outlets say anything about it? You didn't, did you? And so you didn't hear about the investigation, the 46-page report, and you didn't hear any objections about it. To me, that's a little funny. You don't hear about the 40. It's not in the culture. No one knows. TMZ isn't talking about it. CNN, it's not this big bombshell. I had a phone probably during this time. I didn't see it popping up anywhere. I didn't see it being blared everywhere and harped on everywhere. It makes you wonder. After all, this would change everything. This does change everything. To find out that a credible committee that a White House administration is subject to report with a 46-page report that the Trump administration made a deliberate effort to undermine America's response to COVID-19 for political purposes. It makes you wonder why you haven't heard about it. These are the things I'm talking about, guys. Here's another bombshell out of nowhere. Here's something the whole culture doesn't know about again. Did you know about this? Did you know about a 46-page report? I'm talking about specifics, guys, not all this wayward stuff, this how his attitude was during COVID. Him talking about putting bleach in the body and all that other stuff, all that, not that. I ain't talking about none of that. All that foolishness he was talking about during COVID, I ain't talking about none of that. Let's just clear your mind of any of that. Clear your mind of all of that. You got your mind good and clear? I ain't trying to brainwash you. I just said clear your mind, right? Clear your mind. Now, 46-page report done by the House Select Subcommittee. They had a 46-page report on the Trump administration. This is a specific 46-page report. It's not a million reports. It's one report, a 46-page report. One, singular. That's a one-page, not a million 46-page reports, not a million 46-page reports, a 46-page report. This is a single report, guys. That's why I'm trying to get through. This is a one report our culture, our community did not hear about. Did you hear about a 46-page report? Let me get on that soundbite right there. That's why I need to be right there. Did you hear about a 46-page report? That's it right there. Yes or no? Did you hear about a 46-page report in the CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, who was on Trump's side most of the times until they went their separate ways? Did you hear anything about a 46-page report? Did TMZ talk about a 46-page report? They talk about everything else. So you didn't hear about specifically at all a 46-page report. Those numbers don't calculate. You didn't hear it nowhere. That's not something you heard, right? You didn't hear nothing about no 46-page, specifically a 46-page report. You heard nothing about a 46-page report, right? With this serious claim, serious as this is, serious of a claim as it is, you didn't hear about a 46-page report, did you? Did any of these conspiracy theorists and all these people that like debunk to expose things, they tell you about a 46-page report? That's what I'm telling you. I'm telling you facts, guys, on this page. Give some respect to it. You feel me? I'm not asking you to like the page, subscribe to the page. I'm telling you to share the information. You can just walk away with the view. Good for you. Just carry this information out to the public. That's all I ask. You don't have to like the video, subscribe, or nothing. Just share the information, please. Did any of these police know about the 46-page report? Huh? Police wasn't talking about it. Nah, I gotta do this. Military talking about it? Any of the military talking about a 46-page report showing that the Trump administration made deliberate efforts to undermine America's response to COVID-19. Did you hear about did the military tell you about a 46-page report? Did any of Donald Trump's opponents, including Joe Biden? Oh my, man. Joe Biden, where are you when we needed you, man? Joe Biden, where were we when we needed you? You sit up and debated this man at the presidential debate. You debated him. And he's still a political opponent. And yet, did you talk about the 46-page report? Now you see how spooky it is, right? Nobody talked about it. You see how eerie this is. No one talked about, culturally speaking, politically speaking, government-wise, the 46-page report. You hearing these Freemasons talk about it? Did any of these Freemasons talk about the 46-page report? Did the Illuminati talk about the 46-page report? Any of these other secret societies and these other groups of individuals, any of these pro-black groups that love to talk about politics, did they tell you about the 46-page report? Did any pro-black organizations talk about the 46-page report on Donald Trump administration with making deliberate efforts to undermine America's response to COVID-19 for political purposes? Did any of these pro-black media outlets tell you about it? That's what I'm telling you, man. You see, that's why I'm trying to show you. While I'm talking about the information, I want you to also see that no one is doing what I'm doing. No one's doing it. There's a 46-page report. You could have been buried this man politically. He could have been buried. And I shouldn't be angry. I'm the only one doing it, man. Who else talking about it except these articles? And I'm so glad. Respect, salute to Rolling Stones and salute to Daily Beast for putting out articles on it. Salute for that. They tried. It's a joint effort in a situation like this. But other than them two and me, who else is doing it? Who else is talking about this? specifically about the 46-page report. Huh? You didn't hear Kamala Harris talk about it. She ain't talked about it. Like I said, Joe Biden ain't talked about it. All these organizations out there, all these people who want freedom from America, we ain't hear you talk about it. That's why I'm showing you the difference. I give God the praise. I truly do. This is the difference between the kingdom of God and everybody else. Because this is the difference. The proof is in the pudding. We're shedding light literally on things that no one is talking about. Yes, I want it credited to the kingdom of God. That's right. That's absolutely right. Because hey, for the most part, I'm showing up, pulling up with information that nobody else is talking about. We want respect for the kingdom of God. I'm serious. When no one else is talking about this 46-page report, this is the bombshell right here. And people talking about Christian space cadets. While they talking about we space cadets, I'm pulling up with information that nobody in your community is talking about. That's a 7-hour. I'm pulling up with information that nobody is talking about. Why y'all calling us space cadets? Well, a space cadet would be somebody that don't know nothing. A space cadet would be somebody that don't know what's going on. They out of space and mentally. Some will say that's y'all. Hey, I'm just saying. There's a 46-page report that you all overlooked that the House Select Subcommittee did on Donald Trump and concluded that Trump, with this 46-page report, that the Trump administration made deliberate efforts to undermine America's response to COVID-19 for political purposes. Now I'm finna go to the next phase of the situation. I'm going now to the political purposes part. So he did it for political purposes. So what does that mean? I wish the articles would have kind of broke that down. Because and they did a very, very decent, good job. But I wish they would have broke that down because that's the crust of the matter. That proves the motives. That's the motives. That's part of the crust of the matter. Yeah, that's the crust of the matter. Safe to say it's part of it. Okay, so for political purposes, what does that mean? That means he did it to get reelected. Okay, if you're doing it for political purposes, ultimately, this is election year. You got to remember, guys, you have to remember 2020 was election year. I know COVID took over everybody's mind to where you didn't care about politics. You wasn't thinking about Donald Trump, especially him. He was in the White House. You definitely wasn't thinking about the White House because he's in there and COVID is going on. So you wasn't thinking about no politics, right? You wasn't thinking about that. So you didn't take time to think about it was election year until the end of the year. Then you start thinking about it. But for the most part, most of the year, you didn't think about it was election year. You follow me? This was election year 2020, the year 2020. That was election year. Now you see the evil that was going on. Okay, you got COVID-19, and it is election year. Everybody's running around. Everybody's doing this. They're networking. They're trying to do this. They're doing that. Look at the White House itself. They're trying to get Donald Trump reelected. They're trying to do all of this stuff. They're doing this, doing that, going out, pressing people to vote while it's COVID-19 time. Now you see what I'm saying? I know you all listen. You had the right to be somewhat shell-shocked by the fact that COVID-19 took over like it did in 2020. Now that you kind of back to, you done came to, let me tell you what was going on. Simultaneously, while COVID was raging in the country, it was election year, and all the government was running around. All these officials was simultaneously running around trying to get you to vote for Trump or trying to get you to vote for Biden. All of that was going on. So can you imagine all the people running around, all this secretive stuff going on, simultaneously with COVID. First year of it where everybody's shocked. So they're in a state of shock. You're in a state of shock. We are all in a state of shock, right? Meanwhile, it's election year. Now you see what I'm saying. Now it's coming home to you. I had to say it like that so you can understand. So Donald Trump looked at COVID-19 in election year and thought, like a mad scientist, perfect analogy to put out, like a mad scientist, I wanna use this virus to get reelected. I'm gonna let it flare up and get out of control. I'm gonna let it get out of control, and then I'm gonna come in and fix it. And when I come in and fix it, I'm gonna get reelected because everybody's gonna think I'm such a great president. That was the reason why he had a slow response, because he thought it was going to be the equivalent of the swine flu. That's what he thought. He thought it would be the equivalent of the swine flu, and he could come in during election year. COVID coming out during election year to the community, spreading through the community during election year. He thought, let me take advantage of this. Think about how his mindset is. Let me take advantage of this virus. Let it get out of control. You see his arrogance saying, hold up, let it get out of, let it do what it do, right? In so many words. He ain't that cool to say let it do what it do, but he said something to the effect of, oh, wait, hold up. Let's just wait and see what happens. And he was letting it make a perfect storm so that he can come in and fix it. Remind you, it's election year. He comes in and fix it in election year, and by November, everybody's voting for him. Ooh, that don't make sense. You got to be smart following my videos now. COVID-19 came out February, right? Dinky Donald Trump thought by November we'll have it under control and people will sing my praises because I got rid of COVID-19. And then, therefore, I will be reelected. He utilized it. He tried to utilize it to get reelected. The House Select Subcommittee confirmed the Trump administration made deliberate efforts to undermine America's response to COVID-19 for political purposes. Okay, what's the political purposes in 2020? Election year. That's the political purposes. To get reelected is the political purposes. It's election year. What else you doing? What else is the president doing 2020 on election year concerning political purposes? Trying to get reelected, guys. Does it take a rocket scientist to see that? What was the political purposes in 2020 being it was election year? What was the political purposes? To get reelected. So if he undermined America's response for political purposes, if he undermined America's response to COVID-19 for political purposes, that means he did it to get reelected. So what sense does that make? Okay, he stopped America's response to COVID so he could get reelected. What sense does that make? Listen again. Listen closely. He stopped America. They had deliberate efforts to undermine America's response to COVID for political purposes, which the only political purposes in 2020 being election year was to get reelected. So what sense does it make that he would intentionally sabotage the efforts of America responding to COVID-19 for political purposes? This is what the article says. That's what the report, the 46-page report that the House Select Subcommittee confirmed, that he did it for political purposes. Political purposes in 2020 is to get reelected. So why would he intentionally undermine America's response to COVID-19 to get reelected? So if COVID is everywhere, he gets reelected? He just gets reelected because COVID is everywhere. Because right here it says the Trump administration made deliberate efforts to undermine America's response to COVID-19 for political purposes, and being that it's election year, it's obviously to get reelected. So he undermined America's response to COVID-19 to get reelected. So if he stopped America's response, which means it would flare up, how would that get him reelected because COVID-19 flared up? How would he get reelected? Because right here, again, this is what it says. The Trump administration made deliberate efforts to undermine America's response to COVID-19 for political purposes. So what would be the political purposes in 2020 for undermining America's response to COVID-19? What would be the political purposes of undermining America's response to COVID-19? What would be the political purposes? The political purposes would be to get reelected, being that it's election year. They had the debates at the end of the year. They had the presidential debates at the end of 2020. Do you remember? Okay. So he wanted to slow down America's response so he can come in and fix it with his efforts so that he could get reelected. Because what other sense does it make that he would slow down the America's response to COVID for political purposes, letting it get out of control for political purposes? What kind of sense does that make? On its own now, just letting it get out of control for political purposes, just for political purposes. It doesn't make sense unless, except for my narrative. What I believe is he let it get out of control for political purposes so he could get reelected by coming in and fixing COVID. So he had to slow down America's response. Hear me good right here. He had to slow down America's response to let it get out of control so he could fix a problem that would get him reelected. A big enough of a problem to get him reelected. So if you fix some kind of popular virus, everybody's thinking, yeah, I'm going with Donald Trump. He got us all back together. He worked it all out. Yeah, we're going with him. Because right here it says for political purpose. That was the political purpose. That was the political purpose for him to undermine America's response, collectively America's response to COVID-19 so he could get reelected. If it wasn't election year, then it wouldn't be a good claim. If election year was 2 years away, well, you can't say, well, he did it to be reelected. Nah, it was right in election year. How perfect for a mad scientist. How perfect that COVID came election year for a mad scientist like him. Think about it. So you thought he just thought good thoughts? He thought, well, let's see how I can work. Now remind you, this is a businessman. That's a 7 owl. He's a businessman. Yeah, he might be a crummy businessman, a cheesy businessman, a shiny suit, fat cat businessman. Nevertheless, he has this opportunist mentality. That's a 7 owl. Right or wrong? So you don't think he looked at this as an opportunity? I know, you love it, don't you? You loving me, don't you? You loving me, ain't you? You loving me, ain't you? You don't think he used this as a business opportunity? All this man was doing before he came to the politics. Business this, business that. He was crummy at it, just like he was crummy doing what he did to you with this response. He's crummy at business being an opportunist before the White House, and he was crummy as an opportunist in the White House. He was crummy as a businessman outside the White House and in the White House. He looked at this as an opportunity, thinking as a businessman, how can I capitalize on this? And it would have been genius if COVID-19 wasn't as big of a virus as it was. If it was like swine flu or a little bit worse, it would have been genius because it was the election year when it came, and he would have came right in and fixed it. And y'all, I guarantee you, with his following that he has already, y'all would have said, yeah, man, he fixed COVID-19. He got rid of it. Boom. I'm putting him back in the White House. That's my president. That was the whole objective. Him being the opportunist with COVID. Oh, come on, man. You know that's right. And and the credibility of that being right, the House Select Subcommittee got my back. They did a 46-page report that you don't even know about. Do you know about that 46-page report that's confirming what I'm talking about? Oh, that's the credibility of the situation. That's the foundation of the credibility of the situation. The House Select Subcommittee did a 46-page report confirming the Trump administration made deliberate efforts to undermine America's response to COVID-19 for political purposes. The Rolling Stone media outlet made an article about this. You can go read the whole thing. There's a lot of other information. You can go read that whole article. The title of the headline for the Rolling Stone article concerning the House Select Subcommittee 46-page report is the Trump Trump administration deliberately tanked COVID response for political purposes. You can go to Daily Beast. They did an article on it. The headline is Trump administration sabotaged COVID efforts to score political points. That's how they put it, to score political points, which is all about appealing to the masses so that he could get reelected. So you know what the conclusion is and the punchline is? All these people dead because this man did that. This is public enemy number one. Oh, I know you thought it was me, but it's him. That's a 7 hour. How ironic that I revealed it when you thought I was public enemy number one, but it's really him being public enemy number one. Ow. That man is public enemy number one. This is what this war was all about. Don't you see? See, like, look, some things we can't explain, right? Some things are just out of our capacity to understand. All I know, here I am showing you something that you didn't know. But yet, I'm the one that you made public enemy number one. How ironic that I reveal public enemy number one. You made me public enemy number one, but I revealed public enemy number one. That's a 7. Because all the attention was on me, and then God allowed me to show you the truth. Again, no one in your community knows about this 46-page report. That's what we're talking about. This is the credibility of the whole situation. This is the credibility. This is the credibility here. The 46-page report. This is the bombshell. That's the bombshell. That's the nuke. The 46-page report is the nuke from the House Select Subcommittee. That's the nuke. That's the credibility of the situation. He came in the White House and told your White House up, told your country up. Some will say that's the devil himself. The devil is very deceptive, you know. Smile at you, shuck and jive, play the clown. And look what he did. He put you in harm's way. You still in harm's way. It's safe to say, because the Trump administration made deliberate efforts to undermine America's response to COVID-19 for political purposes, it's safe to say that's why it's so many dead people. I'm going to say it just like I want to say it. That's why it's so many dead people in your country. That's the foundation. Because it could have been a warning shot from God, right? I believe it's a plague from God. But God didn't have nothing to do with Donald Trump's response to it, did he? But God knows all things, right? He knew how Donald Trump was going to respond. Listen, clear your mind and listen to what I'm saying to you. The House Select Subcommittee released A 46-page report. Okay? These people investigate the White House. Not McDonald's. They don't investigate McDonald's. They investigate the White House. They don't investigate Disneyland or Disney World. These people investigate White House administrations. Not Chuck E. Cheese. They don't investigate Red Robins. They don't investigate IHOPs. Okay? They don't investigate IHOPs around the country. They investigate the White House. The House Select Subcommittee investigates the White House. And they make a 46-page report concluding that the Trump administration made deliberate efforts to undermine America's response to COVID-19 for political purposes. This is history. That 46-page report is history. A historical bombshell that y'all know nothing about. You know about it? You know about this 46-page report done by the House Select Subcommittee? You know anything about this 46-page report done by the House Select Subcommittee? Doesn't ring a bell, does it? That's what I'm saying. See, it's all coming out because God is good all the time. All the time, God is good. It's coming out. The truth is coming out. Now you see why I was oppressed. Now you see why they did what they did to me. Because, see, I can't explain it. But the wicked know who you are before you become who you are. They know what you're going to do before you do it. Some way, I would say through Satan's kingdom. Satan informs them. But see, now doesn't it make sense how I'm revealing all of this information? Now don't you see why they tried to assassinate my character? Now don't you see why they playing around my head and playing around my life and my path everywhere I go? Now don't you see? It's just another case of trying to assassinate a black leader's a character. That's all it is. Look at it for what it actually is. It's just another case of the country of America. That's what it is. Trying to assassinate the character of a black leader speaking out against the powers that be. They were just crafty and cunning with it. It's the same thing. Because at the end of the day, look what I'm revealing. And I've been like this. And I don't know who heard me and took and went to some other people. I don't know. Because I always talk like this. And I don't know who I might have been talking to, maybe in New York, maybe somewhere else. They say, hey, yeah, you know, that guy talks. He's talking too much about certain things. I don't know who did that. All I know is they trying to assassinate my character everywhere I go. But it ain't sticking, is it? It ain't sticking, is it? And you see the contradiction, right? Then that's how you know they lying. That's how you know they trying to assassinate my character. Because all you see is the contradiction. All you see is the opposite of the situation, of what they talk about. You see me with a fully grown woman, don't you? You see me sharing love for the most part with everybody, don't you? Long as there ain't no suckers playing no games. For the most part, you see me showing love and reaching out and giving out to people, right? You see total contradiction. That mean they lied, man. You can't be simple. That mean they lied. That mean they tried to assassinate my character because they knew that it was going to come to this point right here. The devil knows. Some things we can't explain. I can't explain it. All I know is here I am revealing to you all this information about your country. That's all I know. That's the facts, right? And these are the facts that I'm kicking. The House Select Subcommittee reported the Trump administration made deliberate efforts to undermine America's response to COVID-19 for political purposes. Listen, this ain't my opinion. I told y'all, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. Don't ever think that that's what I am. I don't talk about people shifting it to reptiles. I don't talk about none of that foolishness. Aliens and UFOs. You're never going to hear me talk about that. Bigfoot and everything in between. Loch Ness monster. Listen, man. I'm talking about facts. I'm talking about real happenings and occurrences. Now look at those who oppose me. Nothing factual, nothing manifesting, right? Nothing crystallizing, right? That's what I'm trying to say. And I'm the complete nemesis of Donald Trump. I'm black. I'm a Gemini like he is. His name is Donald. My name is Donnell. You see how fate works out? He's a Gemini. His name is Donald. My name is Donnell. I was meant to be his nemesis. I'm telling you, like, you got to pay attention to spiritual occurrences, man. I'm his worst nightmare. And like I said, you know, you ain't hear him say nothing about it, did you? You ain't hear him say nothing about this. Nothing. He talks about everything else. But you didn't hear him say nothing about the 46-page report, did you? You didn't hear the government talk about this, did you? You didn't hear the government talk about no 46-page report, did you? You didn't hear it, did you? You didn't hear nobody in your culture, nobody in your community, nobody on the streets. You know how some guys kick knowledge on the streets and wisdom on the streets? You didn't hear nobody talk about no 46-page report. That the House Select Subcommittee made a 46-page report that concluded the Trump administration. It confirmed and concluded the Trump administration made deliberate efforts to undermine America's response to COVID-19 for political purposes. He killed y'all. I'm gonna say it like I want to say it. I'm gonna say it like it is, like the reality of the situation. He killed y'all to get reelected. He put your children and you in harm's way, all these dead people, to get reelected. He sold his soul to get reelected. He sold out America to get reelected. The worst sellout in history. He put you in harm's way. He didn't care what it did to you, did he? Hey, it's a virus at the end of the day. He didn't care about you getting no virus. He didn't care about you getting the virus, did he? He put you in harm's way to get back on top. Just like a businessman. He used it as power and fame and all of that and networking. So he sold his soul, so to speak. He sold off his morals, so to speak. He sold off his integrity. He gave it off. He gave it away just to get reelected, because to him it wasn't nothing but a power move. It was not about helping your country. That's a 7. It wasn't nothing but a power move to him to get more powerful and more famous in the world overall. look at it for what it is. This man was already a businessman. He had the Apprentice show and everything. You don't think he coming in the White House like an opportunist, looking at things from a business eye? So you don't think he looked at COVID-19 with the business eye? You don't think he looked at COVID-19 with the business eye, saying, hold on, I can use this. I can capitalize off this. That's a 7th hour. You don't think he looked at it like that? Like he can capitalize off of COVID-19? That's exactly what he did. And you Americans, you don't believe in real evil, do you? Oh yeah, you don't. I can't just believe that. You sound like the old generations that doubt the evils in our present world. Many older generations of Americans, you can't believe in a lot of the evil that's going on right now. Nah, that ain't going on. That's just your imagination. It's just my imagination. Gang stalking and mental and mind technology and witches and warlocks and everything in between. Oh, that's just my imagination. See, you can't believe in the higher evils of our day. That's why our generation is the one that has to start the revolution. Because you older baby boomers, you don't even believe in the evil that's going on. So it takes someone a little younger from a different generation, from a more intense level of evil, them being exposed to it to certain degrees. They have more belief. We have more belief in evil than you do. We can believe that people can do evil things like this. You can't believe it. You can't convince these older women down in Arkansas that sit and listen to their radio and listen to politics radio. You can't convince them of nothing like this. I call it Arkansas Sandy. She still wear the fanny packs, the old school ones. She wear the Walmart sweatsuits. You know the type. She sit by her radio. I just can't believe I can't believe that. I love my country. You know the type. I don't believe that. I believe y'all are deceived. You watch too much TV. And that's why you all are deceived, because you don't believe in the evil that's going on around you. They already showed you that they had the problems in election fraud. They already showed you that. And look how Donald Trump was sitting there in your face holding a straight face. Look how he was doing that. He was looking at you with a straight face, making up lies and everything. Meanwhile, he was in total election fraud mode. Go look at him. Go look how he held a straight face during the whole time. And he's still doing it. He's still doing it. We proved he had election fraud, right or wrong. Right or wrong, guys. And on top of that, you know, look at all this other stuff he's doing. Look at everything. And he holding a straight face, and y'all don't believe in none of the evil he doing. Look at everything. Look at all the issues. They all on his property right now. They was all on his property looking for documents. The January 6th, where he was inciting a riot and all of that stuff situation. They saying he basically provoked the people. Look at all this other stuff. It all links together. You wouldn't have believed in that Donald Trump would have incited a riot, incited people to go and do something like that. You wouldn't believe in that. You didn't believe that he would create an election fraud situation or be fraudulent election wise. But yet, here we are, where we realize that he was. You don't believe in the evil in your time. That's the problem. That's the problem for good people. You don't believe, you choose, and I believe it's part of being an optimistic person. You don't believe in the evil of your time. And that's the problem. It's one thing to be optimistic, it's one thing to go to the extreme of being positive to where you just believe everything is positive. You just believe everything is good. In other words, you believe everything is good, right? And that's not reality, obviously. Look at the news. It's not reality. It's not reality that everything is good and everything is going good and everything is all good. If you don't, if for people who teach positive, um, positive philosophy, if you teach it to a fault, God is going to hold you responsible. Hey, I really believe that. I really believe that, man. Like, if you go around telling people like to be positive all the time and like and to a fault where it doesn't make sense and they don't look at reality and look at the news and look at the stuff that's going on to find out information that I'm talking about, like this 46-page report, then I feel like God is gonna hold them people responsible for that. It's one thing to be positive and get up and have a positive day, right? I don't have no problem with that. It's another thing to be completely oblivious to the evils that's going on around you. That's what I'm not an optimist. I'm not a pessimist. I'm not a pessimistic person. But an optimistic person to an extreme would think that I'm a pessimistic person because I'm talking about these real issues, these evil things that's going on. And some people will conclude that I'm a pessimistic person because they're going to extremes of optimism. I'm not an optimistic person. I'm not a pessimistic person. I am a realist. I deal with reality. That's why you will never see me doing conspiracy theories and all of that. I like reality. That excites me. Real stuff, real tangible things. I don't deal with, you know, pie in the sky optimism, you know, and a gray cloud over my head at all times as a pessimist. I don't do that. I don't go to either of those extremes. I am in that sweet spot of being a realist. I'm positive. I be positive. I'm positive in reality, and I am able to engage in observing and being informed about the evils and the things that's going on in the world. That's reality. You have to deal with it. Look what happens when we don't deal with it. Look what happens when we don't deal with 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 people like Donald Trump. You got a 46-page report on this man, and your culture and your country absolutely is oblivious to it. It's another situation of this. It's another situation of information that is life-changing for Americans that they don't know. And now the time is here. As we're going into 2023, that's why this is happening. Before anybody even jump on that Trump wagon, you need to know about this 46-page report that the House Select Subcommittee did. You need to know about it. And I believe it's happening for that very reason. We're going into a new year. You don't need to be deceived at all about who's your enemy. Your enemy, the public number one enemy of America is Donald Trump. He put you in harm's way. You got millions of deaths. You got casualties after casualties, hundreds of thousands of casualties. You got 102 million COVID cases because this man put you in harm's way for they had deliberate efforts to undermine America's response to COVID-19 for political purposes. Donald Trump made deliberate, the Trump administration made deliberate efforts to undermine America's response to COVID-19 for political purposes. See, it's a hard job, but I gotta do this, man. I really gotta do this. Now you see why I was attacked. Now it's starting to make sense, right? I gotta say that with the situation. Now it's starting to add up. Okay, man, this man, he's on it consistently, bombshell after bombshell. Not just one. Here's something that has nothing to do with the other bombshells. A 46-page report that we cannot deny. It's credible. It's by the House Select Subcommittee. That is credible.